Now, the Imola race is poised to see a lot of top dog teams bring a lot of upgrades to their cars, and it seems like we're going to see a very competitive weekend ahead of us. However, with Red Bull still being miles ahead, this race will be a definite indicator as to whether or not we're going to have a competitive remainder in 2024 as well. Ferrari, McLaren and Red Bull are going to be in the center of attention for this scenario to become true, but we shouldn't count out Mercedes and Aston Martin, both of which are bringing upgrades in order to detach from their current positions and fight for bigger points. With this in mind, could Imola answer a lot of questions about 2024? And more importantly, where will the team stand at the end of it? Look, it goes without saying that the top 3 teams are going to be even closer in Imola, especially if you point out the fact that Ferrari is bringing the first upgrade of the season in a massive package, while McLaren will bring the remainder of their upgrades on Piastri's car, with the Aussie managing to have a more than decent pace in Miami with a 50% upgraded car. Be that as it may, Red Bull is going to answer on their own by bringing the second part of the upgrade package that marks the change of design and philosophy of the RB20 compared to its predecessors. And this is why Damon Hill believes that the upgrades that we've been anticipating for so long do have the potential to shift the narrative for the 2024 season. When talking about this matter to a greater extent, Hill said, "All I can say is I don't know what those upgrades are going to do. None of us do at the moment, except you can pretty much assume it's going to be better." Obviously, Red Bull will feel a lot of pressure because after the first 6 races of the season, the Austrian team has started to show some cracks of vulnerability, such as losing 2 out of the 6 races that have been held this season. The lead is not as big as it was in the previous year, and with this in mind, there is no doubt that Red Bull will have a lot to play for, especially if you consider the fact that they don't have the strongest duo of drivers, although they do have Verstappen on their team, which is more than enough to secure both championships until this point. What is pointing towards the fact that Ferrari can and will be more dangerous in Imola is that without bringing a single upgrade to their car, the Maranello team was able to keep up the difference between them and Red Bull to around 1 to 2 tenths per second in the qualifying process, while in the race it wasn't as big of a gap as in the previous years. The Italian squad have also worked hard on the tyre management, so much so that it actually hurt their race in China as they were unable to bring enough heat to the tyres, proving that they have what it takes to be regular contenders. When talking about the upcoming race in Imola, the team principal Fred Vasseur went on to say, "We don't have to expect that the upgrade package will be a game changer, but the competition is so tight that this can bring a lot of performance. A large part of the result comes from what we're doing with the drivers, the setup of the car during the weekend, as well as the management of the tyres. We don't have to think about upgrades and development. It's also the job we're doing on the track." Red Bull, however, is no longer in the comfort zone of last year, when it didn't matter what happened after lap 2, they were in front. Without a doubt, we'll be able to fight for the victory in Imola, but I believe there is a gap that varies from track to track and from compound to compound, which makes more of a difference than an upgrade. Ferrari is changing almost every bit on their car in what is dubbed the Evo version of the car, starting from the side pod inlet, where the Maranello team has drawn inspiration from the RB20 in terms of the shark mouth and the way that this part is shaped now. Furthermore, Ferrari have decided to ditch the S-duct, or the bypass duct that's been considered as quite a revolutionary part on the SF23. And now, one couldn't help but wonder the P inlet on the SF24, similar to the one of the Alpine and Mercedes cars. What is heavily interesting and important to mention is the expectations of Ferrari. The team believes that they've been able to extract 15 downforce points out of their car with the latest upgrade package that's been further tested in Fiorano in an event that was monitored by an FIA official and converted to lap time, which is around 3 tenths per second. Of course, Red Bull are coming with an upgrade of their own, one from which Helmut Marko expects to see a lot because everything they've brought so far seems to work wonders for the Austrian team. Be that as it may though, it's evident that the dominance from Red Bull is not nearly as visible as it was in the past couple of years, which hints towards an interesting and competitive remainder of the 2024 campaign. McLaren itself is going to be a huge factor in the race wins, especially if you consider the fact that this is the team that's coming off the last win in Miami, and the momentum is definitely on their side. All of the latest upgrades on the MCL38 seem to have worked wonders, and what this goes to show is that they've made yet another great leap in their development path, one that started in 2023 and doesn't seem to be ending anywhere near soon. Zak Brown has also hinted that the fights for race wins between Norris and Verstappen are going to be even fiercer as time goes by, and when answering this question, the team principal of McLaren said, "I do think Lando can beat Max in a straight fight. I think it would be an awesome fight. I think many races would end in tears for one or for the other, or both. But I think as far as raw talent can be concerned, I haven't seen someone faster than Lando. I'm sure Max is just as fast. I'm sure some people will disagree, and ultimately, we'll never know until you see them in the same car." Although the primary emphasis will be put on these three teams and the legitimate six-man battle we could be looking at for the race wins, it doesn't mean that the rest of the grid will be resting and waiting for 2025 to come sooner. Mercedes is bringing the second part of their upgrade package to Imola, one that will revolve around the rear wing and a new beam wing of the car, which follows the big package that the team brought to Miami. In the previous race, the team's primary aim was to address the lack of rear downforce as well as the overheating of the tyres, whereas in Imola, they'll be looking forward to extend the operating window of the car by trying to find a better way of understanding how their platform works, which is more or less the primary challenge that the team has had in the past couple of years. When talking about the upgrades that will be brought to Imola, Schauffele wanted to remind everyone that his team did not take a step back. It's just the fact that the rest of the grid have been able to outperform them. But what we need to be careful about is the pace of the W15 in Imola, due to the high anticipation that revolves around these upgrades. Furthermore, he added, "We managed to pull forward about half of our update kit to Miami, and then the other half is going to arrive in Imola, and we're working hard on the future races to try and bring developments to them as well." Did it work as expected? Yes, it all looks like it's delivering the performance that we were hoping for from the floor. The issue at the moment is that everyone is developing their car, so it's really hard to make a straight sort of step forward. Now, on the other hand, you have Aston Martin, the team that is cemented at P5 in the Constructors' Championship, struggling to match the pace of the Haas and Racing Bulls cars in Miami, something that they will want to avoid by all means in Imola with a great upgrade package that is coming to their car too. All in all, we're going to see changes on all fronts, and while the most interesting one will be at the top between Red Bull and its rivals, we mustn't forget that there are 10 teams and each point counts. So from top to bottom, which team do you think will benefit the most from Imola, and more importantly, do you think that this race will change the narrative of the 2024 future? Let us know in the comments down below.